Okay, so in the Google Drive here, you can see there is a zip file called S1. Just download it first. And if you do not finish the calculator layout yesterday, you can use the files here. So download it, and you will open. You can see there is a complete UI there. Let me download it first. Yes, here. Okay, so this project is the one I'm using yesterday. So there is the complete auto layout here. So today we are going to start from the completed UI. So okay, everyone's okay with this. Just open this project. After you unzip it, you can see there is Xcode prod, and then open this file. You can get into the Xcode. After you open it, you may see the screen like this, and then click the arrow here, and then there is a storyboard there, and just like the screen you are working on yesterday. Okay, so we'll start from here. Okay, first you move the arrow here to the calculator first to indicate the entry point. We are now using calculator but not using the clock anymore. So just move the entry point. This arrow is the entry point to your app to the calculator first. So, and then turn on the split view mode here in the top right corner. There is a 2 circle sign, and then just click on it, and you may see the split view mode. Okay, if you can see the screen like this, and there is a, it should be calculator view controller on your right hand side. There is a calculator view controller.swift. This is the source code file of the calculator view. So we will write the code on calculator view controller.swift. So first we need to connect the UI to our Swift source code. To do that, we need to press the control button on your keyboard again, and then drag to the source code file, and then release it. You will see a menu here. Okay, but do not type the name this time. I'm not going to do this step actually. But you can see that there is a name here and type, and the collection is outlet. We need to change the outlet to action. Okay, that means that action is when you press the button will call the function you are going to make. And the outlet is you want to have the reference of the UI in your code, but for the action you are going to reference the action after you press on the button. So you can type the name of the action here, like digit pressed. This means that when the digit button is pressed, the function of these will be called. So, and then the type, you need to change it to UI button. And there is some event here. Mostly we will choose touch up inside. That means after I touch, no, touch up means I after I touch it and my finger get up inside the button, so this action will be called. And there are many choices for you, but normally we will choose touch up inside. And argument sender is okay, and then collect. Okay, so you will see there is a IP collection. Let me make it bigger first. We have a IP action function digit pressed here. This function will be called when the 0 button is pressed. Okay, so every time I press the 0 button, this function will be called. Okay, so let's do an experiment on this. We type in print and then bracket and then double quote and then press. Okay, the print function here means I want to have a log message, like just like some debugging message for me to see if this function is working or not. So if this let's see how it works now. Yeah, you can run the program here. After you press the 0, you may see there is a pressed string here. So if I press 0, you can see there is a press here. We call the console here. This is the console. Okay, here we will press if you press 0. Because we use print function, the print function will print what we need in the console. Okay, so is everyone okay with that? Yeah. Okay. So we can collect multiple items for one function. So we are going to collect every digit here because every digit actually doing the similar thing. So we do not need 10 function for every numbers. So collect everything here for the digit. Okay. So if you have completed, if your mouse closed, if your mouse not click on, just go to this circle here, and then the 10 digit is highlighted. If you run this program, every button you press here will call the function digit press, and then the press is print on the console. So if you press each of them here, you will have the same result. So let's continue. So we don't want to see pressed here, right? Because it does not have any meaning. So we need to do something like if I click line here, I will show 9 in the console, but not pressed. So what we need to do is we use the function called current title. So how to type it is sender.current title. What is sender? Sender is the sender who called the function. In our case, is the button here. If I press 9, the sender is the button, the 9-digit button here. So if I use, that means dot current title is this button, the current title of this button. So every time I press the digit here, and then I will print the sender current title. But you will see there is a yellow warning signal here because he's you need to have a exclamation mark here. So I will explain it later. So just put a exclamation mark here at the end of the current title. Okay. This is we call optionals in Swift. Yeah, it's quite complicated in Swift, but you just type the exclamation mark after current title first. Yes. So if you run the program, okay. If I press the button here, I will show the console will show the digit of the button, the current title of the button. So 1 is 1, and then 6 is 6 here. So there is a bug here. If you have like if your title is 8 no A or B, you will print out A or B but not 8. So you need to check carefully your title is the digit line 8, 7, 4, 5, and 6. So we are using some lazy method of using the current title to use the title as our digit number. Okay, so any question here? Okay, so we need to connect the label to our code just like yesterday. We need to connect this label. We use Control on our keyboard, drag to the code. This time you only have the outlet choice for you, but not action, because label do not have any action on that because you do not press on a label. So we only have outlets here to collect the label to our code. So this time this label will be result label. Okay, enter. Okay, if you collect that successfully, you can go here and you will see the label is highlighted. Okay, next, we don't want to print in the console. We want to show what we pressed in the label. So this time we change the code of print here to change it to result label dot test equal to sender dot current title, and then exclamation mark here. So we just change the print to result label dot test. Okay. Before we have print sender dot current title. So we now change it to, we now want this thing to put into a results label. So results label dot test, that means this one is a results label. This label, the test on this label will become the sender, the current title of the sender. Okay, so if you run the program, okay. Can you see this result? If I press 4, there's 4, 9, 8, and then 6, 5, 4, 4. Okay. We have completed half of the calculator. Okay. If you cannot find the simulator, so you need to go to the file here, the very top one, this one, USThing workshop S1. top one. And then you will see deployment target here. You need to choose 10.0 but not 10.1. You just select 10.0 and you will see the simulator. If you after you choose 10.0 here, and then you may see this on your computer. You just click on it and then select any device here. So if you can run it in the simulator, you can see the results like this, right? Okay, so let's do the plus operation. Okay, so we just type the line here, result label dot test equal to sender dot current title. Okay, so I'll explain the exclamation mark later, but you just leave the exclamation mark there first. It is called optional, but I'll explain later. Okay, so let's start seeing this code. I will copy the code here to the code share. Okay, so copy to here. Okay. Okay. Okay, so every time we press the plus here, everyone know how calculator works, right? And every time I press the plus here, actually the calculator remembers the 8 here for me, and then I press 9, and then I press equal, and then the calculator will get the 8 from its memory to add the current number here, and then to show the result. So the flow is, we have to remember the numbers here when I press plus here to put it into a variable, and then if I click next number and then I click equal, the two numbers will be added together. Okay, so the first step is you need to remember the numbers here to put into the you need to put the numbers here to the variable when I press plus here. Okay, so because when you are using calculator, if you press plus and then another number 6 and then equal, actually the calculator gets the memories 3 and then add 6 to equal 9, and then it will display 9 here. So basically we need to remember the first number we press. That means the number we press before we click on the plus button here. Okay, any problem? So the first step is every time we the first step is we need to collect the plus button first. You need to collect the plus Again, drag to the code and select action because we need to do action on the button, and press add, press enter. Okay, so if you forget to select the sender is UI button, like me, here you should select UI button but not any. I do it wrongly. I choose any. I should do it UI button. Okay, so if I do it again, yeah, this should be correct. Okay, and then we need to create a variable to store the numbers before we press or after we press the plus button here. When you want to declare a variable, that means a space for you to store the numbers. We use var, and actually you can declare in anywhere because of Swift. You can declare here, or but the best practice is declare at the top of all your code. So var it means that I want to declare a variable. Actually, it's just like your mathematics. var like adding value. That means that I'm using this value. I want to have this value to add into another value, so I'm using adding value, or you can have another naming, but I'm using adding value here, and equal to 0. Okay. If you have any ideas on other programming language, actually you need to declare the type of a variable, like it is a string, or it is an integer, or it is a boolean. But in Swift, we do not need to do that because Swift will automatically do that for us. If I type 0 here, Swift will understand and the adding value is an integer. If I type 0.0 here, that means it is a float or a double. It defaults to be a float first. So a float means a digit. There is a decimal point in a numbers. So if you have 0.0, it will be a float. Adding value will be a float. If I have a double quotation here, hi, this is a string. That means some text, and then adding value will be a string. So this means that Swift can automatically to know your data type for your variable. So we are using integer here. Okay, so we use 0. Or you do not want to set a default value for your variable. You can use some like this. Yes. Okay, this means that I want to have another variable called adding value 2, and it has an integer type. Okay, but I'm not using this, so I just explain it here. If you do not want to have some default value first, you can use colon and then some data type here. It can be int, it can be string string, it can be bool boolean. Boolean is like true or false. Yeah, you can indicate the data type here, or double. Double means the decimal number. Okay, but we do not use this here. We want to have default value for our adding value. Okay, so after we press the add button here, we want to store the text on this label to our adding value variable. So here I will type adding value equal to result label dot text. Okay, because I want to put the text on the label of the label to our variable here. We want to change adding value, like we have pressed 6 here, the label will show 6, and then I press plus. The adding value will become 6. Okay, this is our flow. Okay, but you cannot convert a string into an integer. It is not valid because a string is not an integer. Okay, because adding value is now an integer. And actually dot text is a string, right? And then so there is a warning here saying that you cannot assign some string to integer. Okay, so we need to change the text here, that means the string here, into an integer. In Swift you can easily do it typing int before it and then have a bracket around the result.text. Okay, and there is still an error. You need to have an exclamation mark after it. No, here. It should be both here and here. After int you have an exclamation mark, and after the text, let me see my code here. Sorry, not here. Should be at the very end of the line. Yeah, you should have 2 exclamation mark here. Okay, let's explain the exclamation mark here because there are 2. Okay, exclamation mark means that if before we explain exclamation mark, we need to know there is a type called optional in Swift. What is optional? Because it means that some value can be nothing or have something. This is called optional. Okay, so you can see that result.text. Okay, on the label we can have text or we do not have any text. This time we have some text on a label because we always set 0 here. But sometimes you may see a label is maybe an empty label. So if you see this time, when you see this kind of label, the result label.text will be nothing. When you have nothing on your label, in Swift it will have a type called optional. Optional can be equal to something or nothing. If I use exclamation, so the Swift do not know if your results label.text is there anything in the text. So it cannot convert anything if you do not have if this kind of thing is nothing. So we need to add an exclamation mark here to indicating we must have something here. We ask Swift that you must convert it to us because we already know there is something on it. So we add an exclamation mark here to show that we should have something here to ask Swift don't care about the nothing condition. Because Swift consider 2 conditions. It consider nothing condition or something condition. So if you have no exclamation mark here, it will consider 2 conditions, nothing or something. If nothing, the Swift cannot compile this sentence. Okay? Because if I convert if I convert nothing to integer, this is not make sense, so the app will be crashed. So Swift here warning you that if you're doing something like this, your app will be crashed. So if I add an exclamation mark here to show that you only care about the something condition for me only, so there will be no warning here. So actually Swift will ask you to add some exclamation mark. So you may not need to worry about that. So if you miss the exclamation mark here, you may click on here, and then he will ask you to fix that. If I miss both of them, and then here, and then he will ask me to add one more. So in the results, you can get 2 exclamation mark here if you do not know when to put the exclamation mark. Basically, it indicates that you just ask Swift, now I must have some value here, so I add exclamation mark. So if you want to know more, or you or the optional, so Apple have a good documentation on that. This one, and then there is a section called optional chaining. Yeah, you can see that here, but this is more complicated. It explains more about the optional, and there is some basic one in here. I think in the basics. Yeah, here. Swift also introduced optional type, which handles the absence of values. Yeah, there are two. It shows that there are two cases for an optional: is there is a value or there is not any value here. So we use optional. But normally you can just rely on Xcode to ask you to add the exclamation mark here. So just maybe you can just ignore the optional to not learning the optional, but it is very fundamental in Swift actually. So we can now convert the results label.test into an integer, and then put it into adding value. When you compile this program, it will not have any special changes because the value is only putting into the variable in our code, but not showing on the UI. Okay, next thing we need to do is connecting the equal button to our code, saying that equal pressed. Remember to change it to action, and then choose UI button, connect. Okay. So we have a result here. We add the adding value and also our current result label dot test, but it is an integer. This means that after we press plus, and then 9 will be stored in adding value, and then I press another digit like 6. Okay, 6 is the test currency on the results label. So the result will be here will be equal to the value we have stored before plus the value here. So that means 9 plus 6, and then equal will show, and you press equal, it will show the result here. Okay, but you have to have var before you declaring a new variable. Okay, so this warning is just annoying because it is saying that you are not using the variable, so you should not have it here, but we are using it now. Okay, we need to show the result on our label here. Okay, so the result label dot test equal to result. It makes sense, right? The test of the label will be equal to our result after we've done the calculation here. adding value plus the current digit on the label. But there will be a warning again saying that an integer cannot change to a string, just like the case here. Not here. Here, we need to convert the string into an integer to put it into an integer variable. So in this case, we have another case that we need to convert our integer into a string. But the method is not like this. This is not the very good one. But you can also use this. But in our best practice, we normally do something like this. Not this. Okay. We use this to put our results into a string. So if you compile it, okay, this means that I want to put result in a string, but we have to use the escape character here and then a bracket to put the variable inside a string. Okay, so but you can also use this to have a consistent with the int on the above. You can use string result. It is also quite similar with that string result. You can convert anything. You can convert string or integer and then put something in the bracket, so you can get the type here. Both of these are correct. So if I press 8 here plus 6 and then equal, it will show 14 here. Okay. So the difference between these two sentences, let me show you in here. Okay, so the difference between them is this one you can put anything out of the string, like you can put the other thing not related to the variable. You can put some constant string, some other, not because of the variable. You can put some other string here to show there is a let's see the results. I don't know how to say it. SULT. So it will show results colon and then your variable. Okay, so if you use the knife in the below, this one only can convert a variable to a string, but it does not allow you to add your custom string here. So if I use this knife here, I can do something like this. Okay, so add something I want before the variable. Okay, and you can do This method is commonly used in every app development. I think every screen of our app. So this is very commonly used because we do not always just show a variable into our string. We always want to have some other sentence around the, the variable. Okay, so I suggest to use this. But there is still a warning here saying that you are not changing the value of result, so do not use var. So we just change it to net. Okay, so the warning will be disappeared. Okay, so we have finished the example here. The complete code will be on the here on the code share. Okay. Okay. So you can please do not copy the whole thing to your code because the linkage between the storyboard and your script file will be disappeared. So you can copy it function by function. So I copy digitpress this one into my digitpress here. Okay, so do not copy and paste the whole thing. So if you success, you can see the results here. Yeah. Okay.